Okay. Hey folks, I decided to redo a video that answers the question, what do therapists do with their feelings? Um, I guess in general is the question. I've been asked, who do I see? I, some clients have asked me that. And a lot of clients want to know what I do to take care of myself. A lot of future potential therapists want to know how I take care of myself as a therapist. And some of my friends are just kind of curious. It seems to be this big mystery of what do therapists do with their feelings. And so I had another video about this, but I want to redo it because, quite frankly, I didn't like how that one came out. And I thought that I would try it again. So, um, I guess for the most part, in terms of what I do to manage my emotions and my feelings outside of being a therapist, is I try to practice what I preach. I try to I try to allow myself to recognize what I'm feeling, try to figure that out, identify what the heck is going on with me in this moment, allow myself to feel it, even if it's a feeling that I like less than other ones, for example, uh, sadness or joy. And then I try to find a way to express it to someone that I trust effectively. And I've been trying to do that, also to do that in a way that isn't causing other people to feel attacked by me, especially if that feeling is anger. In sessions, um, there's this idea that therapists should be a blank slate, and we should not show our emotions, so to speak. And some people believe that that's not true, and some people do. And I think that one depends on your theoretical orientation as a therapist, and I also think it depends on the situation. So I do my best to make sure that if I'm going to show how I'm feeling, if I'm going to make that obvious, that it's not going to be interfering with my client's therapy. But the reality is, most of our communication is nonverbal. And even if we try to hide how we're feeling, people are very perceptive, especially when we're having a conversation in therapy, because we're kind of attuned, so to speak. And I'm not necessarily against showing true, genuine emotion in sessions. Um, I guess as a general rule. And I also believe that there are times when it would be completely inappropriate to do so, especially if it has my clients feeling like they have to take care of me, um, they have to, if they feel responsible for how I'm feeling and they feel like they have to change that. Um, I don't believe clients are responsible for how I feel. I truly believe that my thoughts are responsible for how I feel, even if something the client said contributes to how I thought or what I thought. Um, and I want to make sure that my clients are always aware that they are not responsible for fixing my feelings. That if I have an emotion that is hard for me to handle, um, one, they didn't do anything wrong. They did their therapy. And two, I have ways that I can manage my own emotions. And so, all of that being said, some of the things I do when I'm feeling an emotional reaction. One, I communicate them if it's not going to interfere with their therapy. And sometimes I communicate them um, in a way that I didn't intend, because, like, I'm human and I might do something, my face might do something before I'm fully aware of what I'm doing. I might wiggle a foot. I might somehow communicate discomfort, or sadness or surprise or anything like that. But often I will tell my clients how I'm feeling. I'll say um, I'm glad that X, Y, and Z happened, or you felt that. I might say, hearing that makes me sad. Um, or I'm sad that that happened to you. Um, and there's times when I will say, that makes me angry. And there have been times when I've teared up a little bit in sessions, and my clients, I think, have always noticed when that's happened, and they'll either notice it and not say anything, and I'll ask them a question which later indicated that they noticed, or they'll tell me, you look like you're tearing up. And often my response is, yeah, I'm feeling sad that that happened to you, or I'm reacting to what I just heard. And then usually it's a conversation about how my reaction has affected my clients. If I have a strong emotional reaction in a session, then usually I'll take a few minutes between that session and my next session to sit and process that a bit, even if it means it might cause my next client to start their session a little late. I think it's really important for me, given the option of getting my client on time and possibly potentially not being completely present for them because something just, I need to process something, and getting them a few minutes late after having processed it enough that I can be fully present with my client. I'll choose, of the two, I'll choose to get my client a little late so that I can sit and process what just occurred and what I need to do about it in terms of my own emotional response. I hire a supervisor. I think it's hugely important that every therapist have a supervisor, and when you're in private practice, you are your own boss. And so, as great as that is at times, supervision for therapists is necessary, in my opinion. I believe it's necessary in order for the therapist to stay ethical. I think it's necessary in order for the therapist to check themselves and make sure that they're doing everything in a therapeutic manner, and to get some feedback and some ideas, bounce things off when a therapist is feeling stuck in terms of being helpful. And so I hire a supervisor, a professional supervisor who is also a therapist, and that way I can, if I have an emotional reaction in a session, I can notify my own supervisor, this came up and I had this reaction and I need to figure out what that was or how I can be helpful in it, and talk about it in that way. Therapists often have their own therapists, and any of my clients, I don't know about all of my clients, but it's not a secret by any means, but I do let my clients know that I've been in therapy, because I think it's really important, one, for them to know that I know what it feels like to sit on the couch, and I also think it's hugely important for therapists to be willing to go through whatever it is they're expecting their clients to work on and go through in their sessions. And I think it's hugely important for therapists to be as mentally healthy as possible. And so while we're all human beings and we all have our own stuff that we carry, I think it's really, really important that we are all aware when we need the support of a therapist ourselves. And so if I'm in therapy, if it's a time when I'm in therapy and I have an emotional reaction, I might talk about it in my own therapy. Say, I was in a session. I still maintain confidentiality in terms of my clients' personal information. I don't share that. But to say, I was in a session the other day and I had a reaction that I need to process today and explore and figure out what it was about. And then lastly, well, maybe not lastly, but another thing is I will compartmentalize. And a lot of times people say that, we have this idea that defense mechanisms are not good. And they actually are very important. And compartmentalization is a defense mechanism that we use. And it's kind of like we put the emotional material in a box and we close it. And so I think compartmentalization works or is useful when it's brief. So I'm going to put this aside for a bit, but I'm going to return to it. Ways I've done that. I've done some imagery driving home from the office. I'll say I allow myself to think about what occurred in sessions up until, say, this traffic light. And then at this traffic light, I'm going to imagine setting it down, and then I'll pick it up tomorrow. But there's other times when I allow myself to take it home, even though some people say we shouldn't take our work home with us. I know for myself I need to process something. As long as I'm not going over it and over it and over it to the point where it now interferes with my day, or my time with my family, I allow myself that time, even if that's at home, to just sit with it and kind of just sit with it for a bit, see what comes up, maybe work through it in my head a little more, see if there's something I would like to follow it up with. And I do that just long enough to say, okay, I've given it the time that it deserves, and now I'm going to switch gears and give other things the time that they deserve, or other people the time that they deserve. So those are ways that I handle my feelings and emotions, particularly around sessions. I'm sure some other therapists have some other ways, and some therapists wouldn't do some of the things that I've said. Some people might disagree with some of the things that I've said, but that's my genuine response. And I'm guessing that you'll have some of your own opinions on that as well. I think I would love to be able to say that I handle it absolutely perfectly, whatever the heck that means. But the reality is I don't think there is such a definition. And even if there was one, I'm a human being, and that in and of itself means I'm going to screw up at times and do things that are not ideal. But anytime my expression of emotions and feelings in a session have been noticed by my clients to the point where we've had a conversation about them, it's been good conversations about them, and it tends to add to the therapy rather than distract from it for the most part. And I think it's hugely important, though, that I remain responsible in that, and that I don't allow my own crap, so to speak, to get in the way of my client's therapy. I hope that this cleared up any curiosities that you might have, and may you all be well and have a great day.